Once you decide to use a presentation aid, you need to determine when and where to use them. Here are some guidelines to help you in the process. Foremost, it is important to avoid using visual aids just for the sake of using visual aids. It has become common practice to use presentation aids that extend throughout the speech, as with the use of PowerPoint. While this technique can be quite successful, the speaker should be careful not to overdo it. In general, people are getting tired of PowerPoint presentations, especially when the speaker reads the slides to the audience. Furthermore, a presentation aid, like a really long video clip, should not take the speaker's place, a common risk among inexperienced speakers. Rather, the presentation aid should improve the speech by supplementing and complementing what the speaker says. Something simple, short, and to the point will not only avoid the misery caused by PowerPoint burnout, it will also be more effective in holding the audience's attention. Presentation aids should be used when the speaker needs to draw attention to key points. While writing your speech, find the ideas that you want highlighted and remembered. Try to think of an interesting and engaging aid to go with them. Certain parts of your speech will naturally lend themselves to including aids. These include the introduction, transitions, and summaries. Step-by-step processes and complicated data should also be illustrated with presentation aids. The beginning of a speech may be a good place to include an aid. An introduction needs an attention getter in order to make a strong impression on the audience. Generating interest near the start makes it more likely the audience will continue to listen to your speech. For instance, a speaker who is doing a speech on classic rock and roll might start out by playing a short segment from a musical example. The song will get the audience's attention and immediately clue them into the topic about to be discussed. It will also increase excitement for the speech, especially if there are any classic rock fans in the audience. Aids might be attached to the transitions in your speech. This brings back the audience's attention every time you move to a new thought. The presentation aid makes sure the listener is aware of the subject change and does not miss the new points. When using PowerPoint, a person can implement this by changing slides for each new idea. This keeps too much information from being placed on one slide, a common design mistake. However, there are also less technological ways to highlight transitions. Not all venues will have access to projectors or even power. Consider this scenario. An environmental activist group has been planning to make a speech at the local park in honor of Earth Day. The outside area limits them from using computer-generated aids. So instead, the speaker creates large posters highlighting each point. During each transition, they flip it to the blank slide before moving on to the next poster. The blank poster signals that the topic is done and to approach the next one with a blank slate. Not only does this get the job done, but the low-tech aids also add to the group's grassroots image. A presentation aid can also be used in the conclusion to ensure that the audience remembers the speech well. If you have been speaking in an audience for a while, chances are some of your points have started to slip their minds. A final list or visual showing the key points will reinforce the knowledge one last time. This also makes your audience more likely to apply the information to their life. Returning to our earlier example, Paula could show a brief bullet list of the steps towards baking a cake near the beginning of her speech. Then at the end, she then would go over all of her key points one last time. If your speech is lengthy, one final presentation aid should definitely be added. If your speech includes any sequences or practices, a presentation aid should be included to illustrate each step. 3 methods include demonstrations, image series, and flowcharts. Demonstrating a process gives the audience a first-hand look at the subject. When a live demonstration cannot be done for time or space reasons, images can recreate the activity instead. Here's one possibility. A class is assigned to give a speech on one hobby of theirs. Dan wants to do his on flower arranging, as he has been taking classes for it and feels he has enough experience. He really would like to create a bouquet in class in order to show each step. However, after discussing the idea with his professor, Dan has learned that some of his classmates have severe pollen allergies. Therefore, He decides to opt with a PowerPoint display showing photos of him doing each step at home. This way, he is still able to illustrate the process without sacrificing his audience's comfort or safety. Lastly, as we mentioned before, presentation aids should be used when you are presenting complex material or processes. Say a local community college is offering a class on basic car repairs. The mechanic who teaches the class wants to begin by teaching her students how an internal combustion engine works. She could try to explain with the use of diagrams and illustrations, which would be helpful. It would be even better if she could find a slow motion video of the inside of an engine actually running to go along with her pictures. So, let's review. A presentation aid is any supplemental material that is presented outside the spoken words of a speech. The use of sound and images is so common today in our culture that speakers should carefully consider if a presentation aid would help or hinder their speech. There are a number of advantages of using visual aids. These include increasing memory and recall, capturing and maintaining an audience's attention, providing a concrete and persuasive means of support, simplifying complex material, clarifying the organization of a speech, enhancing a speaker's credibility, increasing comprehension in multicultural audiences. Visual aids should be used when the audience does not suffer from PowerPoint fatigue. They should be used to draw attention to key points. This may be during the introduction, transitions, or conclusion. Lastly, presentation aids should be used to show a sequence of steps or complex data or processes. Thank you for visiting the Public Speaking Project's virtual classroom. To view other modules about speech writing, go to www.publicspeakingproject.org.